Alrighty, well today we have him on Mr. Sean Blanton, aka Run Bum. He is the director and owner of Run Bum Races, Run Bum Tour. Sir, how are you?
I'm living the dream. How are you guys?
We're doing great.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, being on the show. I've ran several of your races, and I know Luke's looked at a few of them.
Yeah.
And it's super exciting for us to have the opportunity to interview you and see what you have to say about running.
Dude, bless you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Absolutely, but to start, how did you get into running?
Oh man, that's kind of like a long, but I can make it short story.
Okay, sure.
Alrighty, absolutely.
I played soccer my whole life. Like I still play. I'm 37 now, and
Mhm.
and it was kind of interesting. Like so, I used to always kind of look down on running, because back in high school, we would be practicing soccer, on the field, and then all the cross country guys would be wearing these short shorts, like really scrawny guys running around the track. We're like, that's miserable. Running is literally our punishment, like for soccer. Like if you mess up, the coach is like, go run a couple laps or whatever it is. And yeah, so we're like, why would you ever want to run for fun? Like that's crazy to me. So where I'm from in Atlanta, we have, well, I don't know, at least before COVID, we had the world's largest 10K road race, which is the Peachtree
Okay.
Road Race.
Okay.
And it used to get like 65,000 people. I mean, it's just
Wow.
absolutely insane. I mean,
Cool.
like, it's the busiest road in Atlanta. Everyone drives on it, has driven on it. It's a lot of traffic, a lot of time. And for July 4th, they just shut the whole thing down and you get 65,000 people coming down that. So one year, my mom, like 16 or so years ago, my mom was like, "Oh, I got injured." My mom used to she was a jogger, if you
Yeah.
will. Like my parents' generation, like that was the thing, was jogging. It wasn't running. It was like, oh, we're going out for a casual jog, like just for exercise or jazzercise, that kind of stuff. So ankle weights, and so my mom was fit, but she wasn't like winning races or anything.
Sure.
So it was really inspirational. And one year she was hurt, and she said, "Sean, do you want to run this race?" And I was like, give me that stupid thing. I'll take this bib. I'll go show them what's up. And of course, they do time groups because you can't have 65,000 people like all.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like that just doesn't work. So my mom was like in time group double Z. It's like basically at the back, okay? And if you've never run the Peachtree Road Race and you're listening to this, I highly encourage everybody to run a race like this that is very
Yeah.
over the top with just so many dang people, whatever. Trail running is the exact opposite of it, which is why I love that. And, we can get in that later, but it's very inspirational. There's a lot of energy. It's very inspiring and it's just like uplifting. You're just like, yeah. And
Yeah.
kind of like the whole time people are on the side of this thing cheering, chugging beers, just out of control at like 7:30, 8 in the morning on July 4th, which by the way, in Atlanta, it's always like 95-degree heat index
Yeah.
at like
Yeah.
8 a.m.
No
So
kidding.
most of the people back where I was were just walking. Okay. Like,
Mhm.
out of shape, overweight people, no judgment, but it's like basically people. I remember this was a thing growing up. People were like, well, my one day a year where I exercise was the beach road race, which is crazy. So you pick the hottest, worst time with the
No
most
kidding. To
people
do. Yeah.
exercise, but everybody would get it just for the t-shirt. And
Yeah.
people would wear that t-shirt like a disease for like the rest of the year until they got the next one. So going back a little bit. So I show up and we were close enough. My parents live close enough. I can literally walk to the start. So I walk down the
Mhm.
start and, it's palpable, the energy. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is amazing. People are buzzing about, talking
Yeah.
about it. Everybody's got red, white, and blue on
Yeah.
costumes. It's like, wow, this is epic. And I kind of started feeling like I was catching the bug there. Well, we start the time group, we slowly move our way up, and we start, and it's like ready, set, go, like, because they're like, all right, counting us down. There's somebody up on like a ladder, like projecting, yeah. And we start, and I'm like, it's like ready, set, go. And I'm expecting people to start running. Everyone starts walking. And I'm like, this is crazy. So I'm zigzagging through these people for, the entirety of this route.
Yeah. No
And
kidding.
I don't know if I was really having fun or not. It was just kind of like I don't think my brain could really comprehend what was going on as a soccer player. It was just like, who are these people that aren't, it was like the ego from soccer. It's like, who are these people that aren't in shape and why are they out here, kind of thing. And I got done. It was just kind of like, I didn't really feel any better or worse I was indifferent. And I got back and my mom, I think I was more just upset that I didn't go faster. I think I was like 45 minutes, something like that.
Wow.
And I had never run a race ever.
Yeah, it's
And
impressive.
Well, thanks. And so I go back, I tell my mom, and I was like, hey, she's like, how'd it go? And I was like, oh, I think my time was, this. I had like a Timex watch. I was like, here. And she was like, that's amazing. And I was like, well, no, it wasn't. Like, I could have gone way faster if all these people hadn't been in my way. And she was like, well, you should qualify and run other races. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. So I literally started running just because I was pissed off because I didn't go faster because there was people in my way. So that's how I kind of got into running. And then I used to travel around the world. I still do, but I used to travel around the world a lot. I used to blow all my money on traveling, did not save a dime. Kids, if you're listening to this, people of all ages, you can always make more money. You can never get more time. So I've been very fortunate and blessed to have the opportunity to do that. I think a lot of people do have the opportunity to do that. They just don't realize that what opportunity looks like and what it is. So I was on a trip to New Zealand and I saw that there was I was looking for running races over there and I was like, oh, trail running. Oh, it's kind of interesting. So I find this race that looked pretty big. It was called the Kepler Challenge, or is called the Kepler Challenge. And they have a 27K, and they have a 50 plus, I think it's 64K. That's what it is. And I was like, oh, that's too far. I can't do that. I was like, oh, 27K. So I'm like, bang, it's sold out. No. So I sent them an email and said, hey, I'm coming all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, literally the other side of the world. Is there any way that you guys can let me in? And they're like, we actually have an international runner allotment. We're like, you're in. I'm like,
awesome. That's awesome.
Before I even knew what happened. So there we were. So we'll fast forward to, I'm in New Zealand. It's an out and back. It's a mountain run. I've never really run on a trail. I have some shoes that I bought from a running store in Atlanta. I have no idea what I'm doing. Again, I'm a soccer player who's trying to fake their way through running. So we start off and all these people just take off. The first 3 or so miles is completely flat. People take off and I'm like, I'm just running. And then all of a sudden we hit this 3,000 or more foot climb. As soon as we hit the bottom of that, everyone starts walking. And I'm just looking around like, look at these idiots. Like, why are you this is a running race? Like, what are you doing? So I continue to run and jog. And if you can imagine someone who's never run up a
mountain
thing, it's like, so I saw, running turns to jogging, turns to walk jogging, turns into power hiking, turns into just throwing everything at it that I got. And I will never forget, that was a defining moment in my life. We're in the woods. We pop out above the tree line, which in New Zealand probably is 2,000 feet. It's not high. Yeah. And I remember turning around and looking behind me and just stopping and being like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Yeah. This is incredible. It was just, landscape as far as you could see, rolling hills, lakes, might even been the ocean. I can't remember, but it was just absolutely beautiful. And I was like, it looked like Lord of the Rings. I mean, which is, they filmed that there. So it makes sense.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And I got to the top. There's this little hut. And they had an aid station. I was like, okay, cool. Now we're racing again. And I hit the hut, which was the top of the climb, which inevitably everything going back the other way is all downhill and flat.
Right.
And I'm like, oh yeah, I made it. My legs are gassed. Like, heck yeah. I grabbed some whatever food, water, whatever it was. And I turn around and as soon as I turned around and started going downhill, every muscle in my leg seized up completely and I fell over. Like everything was cramping. I was like, oh God, it just wasn't used to it. Yeah. And I went from 4th or 5th place to 17th, 18th place by the end of it. But I caught the bug and I was talking to all these guys who had run the 64K and they were telling me about ultra marathons and all that. And I had never heard of that. And I was so crippled for a week. But as soon as I got back to my hostel, I was like, just like you guys are talking about, I was like, boom, Google ultra marathon. But I signed up for 15 races. I swear. I was like road
Wow.
marathons, like whatever. It's like, okay, man, I'm in. And that's kind of how it all started. So
Yeah.
that was a really long story, but there you go.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. So, which races did you sign up for initially after completing this 10K
One in
in
New Zealand.
Atlanta and this one in New Zealand? Because that's two very different races. We have a 10K road race and then a trail run up a mountain.
In New Zealand.
Did you really have a preference in terms
Yeah,
of road or trail yet, or?
absolutely. Like I'm totally a hybrid runner for
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
But I love trails. So my whole goal was to try to break 40 minutes in a 10K and 20 minutes in a 5K. And eventually I did that and,
Right.
continued to be able to do that, barely now. But yeah. And so I like road for speed and I like trails for fun and
Right.
just exploring and views. And so like kind of when I got back, I signed up for a bunch of road marathons. And I think I've done to this day, I've probably done about 12 to 15 road marathons,
Okay.
but over 300 ultras. So like you
Right,
can
okay.
tell kind of,
Which one you prefer?
That's
Yeah.
disparity.
Yeah.
But-
Did you invest in? Oh, sorry.
No, go
Did
ahead.
you invest in better shoes
Oh yeah.
after you came back from New Zealand?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Do you have a preferred brand? Because Luke is a big Brooks and Hoka guy, and I'm just New Balance, straight up.
It's so weird. I'm like the worst person to ask with like shoes because like I don't
Mhm.
follow a lot of it. I used to run on the La Sportiva mountain running team. I loved
Mhm.
their shoes.
Okay.
And then they changed them. And so I actually just didn't even renew my mountain running sponsorship. And this was, I mean, 6-7 years ago at least. And I don't know, like right now it's kind of weird. Like on the road, I've been wearing these like, I'm a minimalist guy. So I've been wearing like ultras,
Yeah,
like
okay. I have a pair.
racers. I like that. And then sometimes I'll wear, it depends on the trail, right? It's like, every tool has its purpose, right? So
Right.
I have a lot of different shoes for a lot of different terrains and a lot of different things. I do not really wear like Hoka, like the maximalist shoes. Oddly enough, Hoka made this really cool aggressive lugged. It's called the Hoka Evo Jaws. It was like their only minimalist
Okay.
shoe. I used to wear it. It was awesome. I love it. They discontinued it, but it was bright blue, like a light bright blue. And you would put it on, and even if you're wearing socks, the first like 10 times, it would dye your feet blue, and it's like
Ugh.
like a Smurf. And I'm like, that can't be good for your health.
No. Have you ever tried Solomon's?
I have Solomon. I have like a wider foot, so they're kind of like a tighter fit on me.
Right. Yeah.
I haven't really found anything that I like in Solomon. For me personally, I think they're a great shoe, but yeah. Just for
Awesome. Well, we've talked about your introduction to trail running and some of your shoe preferences. How do you train? Do you just kind of go out willy-nilly, I'm going to run 50K today, or do you have a set plan that you develop over the course of a few months?
Yeah.
And does that change over time, your preference?
For sure. So oddly enough, how about this? I'll give you two things here. Number one is like when I was actually racing and in really good shape, I never logged miles. I never logged pace. I basically, when I was really, I don't think I was ever like a great ultra runner. I've just done a lot of them. I was more like my preference is something that's like 7 to 15 miles, as mountainous as possible, as technical as possible, not at high altitude. Like that's what I love doing. So if I can find a 25K race, like that's probably my favorite distance right now. Like it's really technical, lots of up and downs, got some views on it. Like that's me all day. I love that. When I was in really good shape for all that stuff, I basically had this rule of thought that I did no garbage miles. So I used to referee high school soccer, adult soccer, volleyball, like all these sports. And so 6 days a week, I would be refereeing sports and active and on my feet. And that was like pretty much year round minus the holidays. So I would then go, like sometimes I would run to go referee. So I was just kind of like
Mm.
always on my feet, always doing stuff. And I would really try like once a week to have like all out efforts for like a 5K, 2 miles, that kind of thing. And my thought process was the more 5 minute miles that I can run, in training is the
Mm.
faster that I'm going to be. So I would,
Right.
I,
Yeah.
my mentality too was like no garbage miles in the sense of like, I call it the stride, right? So, and I'm not saying ultra runners should do this because ultra running is kind of a little different than that.
Mm.
But I was always less miles, more quality,
Mm-hmm.
So
Sure.
um, I had, and I think we can all, as runners, if you run enough, you go, okay, this is it. If I go slower than like, I don't know, like a 9-15 minute mile, and even really slower than like a 9 minute mile, I'm kind of like doing a weird shuffle.
Right.
It's not like a full stride, right?
Right.
And I'm not saying middle distance, like, man, I'm opening it up to a 5:30 or something. I'm talking about like basically anything above 8:39 minute mile. I am no longer what I would call run for me personally, right? I'm not
Mm-hmm.
knocking anybody's pace or anything like
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
It's
Sure.
just I can feel a difference where it's kind of like my stride changes. So I got to the point where it's like, okay, every mile that I run, I am only going to do this stride. And if I felt like where my stride broke down to where, oh man, like I'm getting tired, I can't do that, I would literally just wherever I was, I don't care what kind of run I was on, I would just stop and walk, let
Mm-hmm.
my muscles recover, take 30 seconds, and then go at it again.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was my mentality for a long time. That's when I was like PRing, like
Mm.
7 minute miles for 50 miles and stuff like that. That's when I
Wow.
was running 16-minute 5Ks. Like that's when I felt really good. And I mean, still to this day, I cannot emphasize enough, you know, now that I'm older though, like
Yeah.
it's
Mm-hmm.
changed, right? So now I kind of do a lot of like heart rate based running.
Sure. Yeah. I'm
The
familiar.
reason I do that is because like I've been injured for like 7 years, like soft tissue stuff. So it kind of
Mm.
hurts when I run. So I got to be very precise and very, um, I just got to pick and choose where I blow my legs out. So I do a
Right.
lot more like cross training and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also not training to run 100 miles. I'm not training to run, 50 miles, etc. I kind of try to keep in the shape where any day, any place, I can go out and just do a 50K. Like 2 days ago, the night
Yeah.
before, I decided I was going to do a 50K.
Right.
And was I fast? No. But I went out and did a 50K, and then I ran 6 miles yesterday and rode a bike for an hour. So it's like I guess my priorities have changed from like racing
Right.
to
Mm-hmm.
kind of like just staying in shape and having fun with it. So
Mm.
hopefully that helps answer that question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It totally does.
Can you hit on your distance progression too as you got into running?
Yeah, I basically just started running all the time. Like when
Mm-hmm.
I first started doing it, when I first discovered ultra running, it was kind of like it was like a new drug, basically,
Yeah.
for lack of better words, right? It was like, oh man, every as much as I could, I wanted to hit ultra distance because there was something in my mind, and I'm sure a lot of people who've run ultras can relate to this, where it's like conventionally we're told a marathon is like the maximum that people run, like,
Yeah.
and that's
Right.
crazy, right?
A
Now,
lot of people still think that too. So.
correct. And I would challenge people listening to this just in everyday life is like, don't ever let other people define your boundaries, like on what you can and can't do physically and mentally. I mean, that's what my life has been about is, being uncomfortable, making myself uncomfortable, going in those unknown uh, territories for myself. And that's what ultra running is. Everybody wants to know that they can finish something before they do it. It's like, that's not ultra running.
Right.
Um, so back to what I was saying was, you know, as far as mileage goes, like I basically just started kind of running all the time. Like one of the things I did back in the day was kind of just took a credit card with me and would go run around the city and then just stop at gas stations like
Mm-hmm.
whenever I needed. And it's like, oh, I don't even know where I'm going today. I was like, sometimes it'd be an hour run, sometimes it'd be like a 10-hour hike, walk, jog, and I remember, being in Atlanta at like 2 or 3 in the morning one time, running by some bar, and people are all drunk yelling at me, like throwing obscenities at me. And I'm just kind of laughing because I'm like 30 miles into a run at 3 a.m.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think a lot of it too is like, you can try to, okay, when I was coaching people, I did coach people for a while. I stopped doing that. But, we always hear the law of 10%. I mean, the reality is you want running to be fun, right?
Right.
And that was my mentality. And that's what made me different. What still makes me different than a lot of people is a lot of people look at it as work and, I don't want to do this. I have to get out of it. It's like, I don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. We
Yeah.
get to do this.
Yeah.
And if you look at it as fun, like for me, running, ultra running, 5Ks and stuff like that, it's like human demolition derby to me. It's an extreme sport. Yeah, I'm an extreme sport guy. And so I think for me, it's more the mentality. So as far as like, I was never doing 80, 90 miles a week or anything like that. It's probably like 40 to 60. But then, I would do like randomly just do a 40-mile ultra, or, I'd run a 50K Saturday, 50K Sunday, so it's like, it would just randomly just be,
Yeah. I saw that someone had recorded the speech you gave before the Grayson Highlands 50 miler, and two of the things that I really remember are A, you said, remember, we get to be here, and B, you said, no one cares if you finish except you. Can you talk about having that mentality of not being nervous about finishing and just running for you?
Absolutely. So one thing that I watch, because I spend ungodly amount of time on social media, mainly on Facebook, commenting on stuff. I guess I'm in the older generation that still uses Facebook. But one thing I just see a lot of people, and I feel for people. I'm an empath, and I love being around people. I'm very extroverted, and talking to people, watching what people are saying. Like, I just see so many people feel like they need to finish an ultra or finish said distance or do said time, not for them, like, because I can tell it's like other people are watching, and somehow this finish or this time, they've somehow made it give their life meaning, which I tell you, it's like, this is a hobby. It should be fun. You will go through a range of emotions on any distance, any day. I think that people get too caught up in, oh my God, what are other people going to think? I mean, it's like, I see people getting more likes and comments and stuff when they don't finish things than when they do. And at the end of the day, like, I've had conversations with a lot of people like, oh, well, that, I did this on this race, or I didn't finish this. And it's like, and I'm thinking to myself, I didn't know that, nor do I care, not in a bad way, but it's like, that's awesome. I want to support you however I can. But I'm saying that to say that no one cares how you personally are doing, because everyone else is so involved with how they're doing themselves. It's kind of like, run like nobody's watching, dance like nobody's watching, have fun. The biggest thing that I try to relate to people and get across is that you don't have to run 100 miles. Like, that's not for everybody. You don't have to run an ultra marathon. You don't even have to run. Just do something. Hopefully daily, or at least a couple times a week, that is difficult. We need to do difficult things, and not enough people do that. And I think if you want to truly test your physical and really mental limits in this life, ultra running is a great thing. Other great things are jumping out of planes, flying off mountains, going scuba diving, traveling to a third world. All of these things open up different pathways in your brain, which have been scientifically shown to help your cognitive ability, make you a better person, make you more understanding, and just keep you sharp and focused. Like, I'd say this all the time: your life, my life, all our lives begins at the edge of our comfort zone. And so it's that's why I put on running races. That's why I run ultra marathons. Is not that I'm a masochist, but I understand that to get to that level of release, to understanding, to whatever that higher, thinking, that thought process, you have to go through some sort of physical pain or exertion, to get there, period.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. You mentioned running at night. Can you give us tips for night running? Because that's something I haven't had a lot of experience with.
So my question to you first is this, and be honest, man.
Mm-hmm.
If you're running on a trail at night, do you get a little freaked out a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been running in the mornings. It's dark and it's through the woods, and it's a little bit eerie, but I don't need to just keep on going. But
well, that's what it is, right? It's like, and that's energy expended towards something that you can't control, right?
yeah.
Like one of the best quotes I ever heard from somebody, and it was that like the moment you realize that you never had control is the moment that you're just free to do whatever. And it's like, wow. I'm not saying I live that, but it's like, wow, okay. I also am a firm believer, and there's a lot of things that scare me.
Right.
Running at night, interesting. Like it doesn't bother me too much anymore, just because I'm not afraid of bears, and I'm not afraid of snakes, and I'm not afraid of random sketchy people. You know what I mean? So to that, I would say that like the more you do something, the easier it makes it, right? So like my fears that I have, I try to go conquer that as much as possible and just make it routine, right? So if whatever it might be, whether it's kind of uncomfortable to run in the dark, and literally, you're not the only person. It's literally everybody. Like when I first started doing it, same thing.
Mhm.
Same thing. It's like, oh my God, what's that? It's a noise. It's like a squirrel or like a branch falling. You're like, oh my God, serial killer. The more time you spend out there, the better. The cheat sheet to running at night, though, and feeling comfortable is get a brighter light.
Yeah. No kidding.
I've been running with a chest light,
Yep.
and it seems to work pretty good.
There you go.
So
Some have a headlamp. It's like a silicone strap that goes around your head. It's not one of those like multi-strap ones that go over the top and the back. It's just one continuous silicone strap. And it doesn't work very well. And it's got a bunch of different modes, but it just dies really quickly. And I guess that kind of leads up to my next question. Do you have specific gear that you run with every time you run, or
like a vest or
a
anything?
vest or a light or watch maybe? Because Luke and I have watches, and I use mine a lot more than he uses his. And I was wondering what your thoughts
Well,
were
I
about
just
that.
got mine just now.
Right.
I used to not wear a watch at all because I would run with people all the time. But
That's been a source of debate.
Well, it's interesting. So I used to run with like a Timex watch. So it's like and you just click start, and then when you finish, you click stop. Or you'd hit splits, like if you're at a track or something, you'd hit split. I loved it. It was so freeing. Now, and I never wore a GPS watch. I never wore that until in 2020, or actually really in 2019 when I was training for the Florida Trail. FKT, which is like an 1,108 mile trail. And I wore it the whole time because I had to prove, I was doing everything. So I was also taking photos, like, waypointed photos on my phone with the watch, with the trail in the background, being like, hey, I had this mileage. That way nobody could say, hey, you didn't do that. But
we can touch on that in a second.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. So that's when I first started wearing it. And I now, again, I kind of look at the heart rate. I don't have a heart rate strap. I enjoy it. Really kind of what it helps me do is kind of just now it's really helping me because I can kind of try to aim for like a certain heart rate ish for each run. It's like, hey, I know that's like, hey, I did a 50K 2 days ago. Even though I walked a lot of it, it's like my legs are still recovering. If I go for a run today, which I will likely not, I'll probably just go walk and mountain bike. But I don't want my heart rate to get above 135-ish. You know what I mean? So like, because I know once I hit that point, I'm getting breakdown and all that stuff like that. So that really helps. I'm a super minimalist guy, at least historically was. You ever see me running a race, 9 times out of 10, I don't have a shirt on, and I have like 15 things like somehow shoved in the waist, in the liner of my the waistband of my running shorts.
Like Batman's belt.
Yes, it's so funny. I've got like a water bottle. I'll have like a shirt. I'll have like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Just like I look like an idiot, but it works. And I try to do everything I can to not take a pack. So
Right.
For me, it's like I said, with shoes, same thing. It's like there's a different tool for whatever you're doing. Same thing with like what I'm doing, like distance, whatever. It's like if I'm putting a pack on, that typically means I'm going a long way. I'm hiking, or it's really cold, or it's really hot, so I'm trying to take extra water, water filter, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Survival stuff.
Have you ever ran with poles or sticks?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I made a really
Yeah.
cool video, I think, on this.
Yeah, we can link it in the description.
Yeah. If I think of like when to use poles, when not to use poles.
Yeah.
I've run probably 40 ultras in the Alps. That's when I would say poles help a lot. I've also run them with and without, like the same races. Like, so it'd be like 100K with 27,000 feet of climbing, and it's like they're long. I think that poles should be used on really long distances, meaning like 100 miles, or really long climbs. So like if you're just doing like a lot of like short up and downs and stuff like that, I think it's cumbersome. I think it's very hard for you to eat and drink
Right.
while you have the poles. For me, I feel like I lose a lot of time too if I'm just messing with the poles and it's not just one long climb. I'll give you an example. Is like where was I the other week? I was in Arizona checking out the Arizona Trail, and I went for a hike one day and just like, oh, cool, I'll bust out the poles here. And I'd just done like 37-mile hike the day before. I was like, well, I'll use these poles. And dude, it was so cumbersome. I had them for half of a mile. I literally just packed them up, put them right back in my bag. I'm like, I need my hands free to be able to eat, to be able to get my phone out and navigate and stuff like that. So
Right.
yeah, I mean, the real question I'm guessing you're asking me is like, should you use them for the Yeti 100? And the answer is this: is you're young. I don't think you need poles unless all of a sudden things start failing out. Like you see a lot of older people, they'll be leaned over, they'll like doubled over, like towards the end of a race.
Right.
Their core has literally failed. And those poles are helping them. I think you shouldn't do all your miles with poles. I think you should maybe do 20% of your miles with the poles. I also think knowing how to use them quickly. A lot of people will reach out in front of them and then pull like this. On something like Yeti 100, it's basically completely flat. I don't think that it helps you at all on that, unless it's like if you have a crew, keep that in your bag. And it's kind of like a last ditch effort. Like, hey, stuff hit the fan, and
You're dying. Yeah.
you got to do whatever. Because at some races, like the goal, obviously the goal is to finish. And at some point, it's like whatever you got to do to finish. You got to take a nap. You got to stop and eat food and let it digest for an hour. Whatever it takes, you get it done. Poles, same thing. So that's my thought process.
I was wanting to ask you about nutrition too. What is your nutrition plan for a 100-mile race, and how do you kind of get that settled out before?
Yeah, I mean, there is no settling it out before. It's just eat constantly. I do not use any non-real food products, period.
Okay. So no gels or anything?
That stuff's so gross to me. However, they have changed like what gels like they have. Like I really like those Huma and the what are the other ones? The ones that's like Awesome Sauce or whatever.
Okay.
I forget what
Not
brand.
familiar with them.
Yeah, but they're like kind of their actual quote unquote as real food as you can get for a gel, which like I think it has like basmati rice and applesauce. I'm like, dude, that's really good. But all the like the goo, the hammer, all that stuff like that, where it's like maltodextrin based. And again, there's no hate. Like that works great for people.
Right.
I'm a huge proponent of eating real food and solid food, especially for a 100-miler. The sickest I ever see people at races as a race director, I used to go out and kind of ride around on a bike, checking on people and supporting people, during the Yeti 100. Every single year, I saw the same thing. People were throwing up and puking everywhere because all they've been doing was drinking Tailwind, like recipe for disaster. So my suggestion to you is whatever foods you think that you might eat, put them all, like I assume you got a crew, right?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and we could get into that later if you wanted,
Yeah.
like how to crew and all that stuff. But what my recommendation is, anything that has ever appealed to you ever, just like figure out, put it in the car. Hot food later on always helps, like some broth or whatever. Don't be relying on aid stations. I know they have great aid stations, but like, just know what you want and kind of try to lay off as much sugar in the beginning. I know a lot of people take like salt pills and all this other stuff. I literally don't do any of that unless it's super hot and I'm sweating a bunch. There's enough sodium in all the food that we buy and have that you're fine. So eat before you're hungry, drink before you're thirsty, go slower than you think. It's like everybody takes off on that race. It's downhill for the first 15 miles. They're like, oh man, I just PR at the half marathon at the 50K. Wow, probably not going to finish now, or you're not comfortable. So I mean, it's just know what you want and just keep eating it.
Yeah, I know Paul Tilley talked about drinking milk during the race. Have you ever drank cold milk?
I have now.
Oh, okay. How'd that go?
Well, now I'm lactose intolerant, so I can't.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, milk is awesome. Like a lot of people used to drink Ensure, those like old people like calorie shakes. They're all whey protein based. I don't know if I would recommend that anymore. I think it can cause GI stress, but it has vitamins, minerals, all this other stuff in it, sugar. So it can be good. I would recommend anything like that, milk, etc. Milk is awesome, dude. It's sweet. It's got protein, whatever. Paul loves that stuff. Kevin loves that stuff.
Yeah.
It is really good. But you got to see how it reacts to your gut. Because I think the pH is whatever it is, positive or negative, whatever it is, it could mess your stomach up, but it also coat it. So you really got to kind of play and see how that goes. Some people, I used to love chocolate milk. Chocolate milk was like,
oh yeah.
And during like a 50 miler, oh my God, I'd put that in a drop bag. Oh man, on ice, so good.
Yeah, our track coach really recommends chocolate milk after workouts and stuff. She wants us to drink it because it has the protein and amino acids in it, right? And
after races, we'd always go to the gas station and get chocolate milk. So it was always kind of a thing we did.
One of my favorite races I've ever run when I could drink milk. At the end, they had a local dairy.
Oh, that's neat.
Chocolate milk from like literally 20 minutes down the road, and it was like, I don't know, something like 50 gallons of chocolate milk, and it was like I probably drank half a gallon after. I was like, this is so good.
Have you had Dutch's chocolate milk? It's some around this area. No. It's a local chocolate milk, kind of like what you were talking about, and it's really popular among athletes here. You mentioned crewing. Yeah, Ethan's helping me crew. I think you're doing a half Ironman this summer. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing. I'm going to help him crew for that. Can you give us some advice for crews?
Yeah. So never ask someone how they're feeling. Just assume it's always terrible. There's a lot of psychology that goes into this stuff too. It's like, you always want to tell someone like, dude, you're doing great. You look awesome, whatever. I mean, but more detail than that, because that's kind of superficial and you can tell the runner. As somebody progresses into things, you need to kind of do the thinking for them. Right. Never ask, hey, what do you want? Right. Because as we do these endurance events, the science of it is actually really cool. The physiology of what happens to your body is like basically the perfusion to your brain, which is blood flow to your brain, kind of your body, basically it's fight or flight mode. So it's basically just sending enough blood and oxygen to your brain to kind of keep, hey, we're going forward, but not to do like, I'll give you an example. If you're ever running like a long distance or something, try to do basic math. It is very challenging.
It is, yes.
Why is that? It's because your body is sending all that blood and oxygen to your muscles, right? Not to your head. So the person crewing them kind of just needs to be like, hey, here you go. I would also recommend you guys practice at least once, maybe twice ahead of time. Like, be a 20-mile run, come out there, crew them. Hey, you're going to hit this like aid station that he sets up. Make sure it's the same exact thing that you're going to have for him. Like come race day, there's nothing new. There's no questions. Like, what's going down. And what I would recommend is you guys kind of have like a plan for like, say, the first 50 miles, and then kind of just play it by ear, because it's like, for the first 50 miles, you kind of know what somebody's going to want, what they're going to want.
Yeah.
So my suggestion as a crew person is make the decisions for them, but also leave that open. Like, hey, anything else you need? Like at the end, kind of just offer them variety. Be like, hey, I have this, 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 and this for you. Oh, hey, it's mile 10. Here's some more lube. Make sure you lube. Like, because that's the other thing in 100 miles, like chafing will stop you.
Yeah.
You use nipple guards too, like nipple Band-Aids?
I just use Band-Aids, yeah, for
Band-Aids, sure. Okay. Yeah, I think with the running crew, it's kind of, it's kind of used to it. But he's doing the half Ironman. It's biking and swimming too, and that's just.
I'm not sure how that'll work, because I'm on our high school swim team, and we don't do anything like super long. The longest event in high school swimming is 500 yards, whereas for the half Ironman, I'm going to have to swim 2,000 meters. So over 4 times the longest distance that I would do in a high school swimming. And I'm not really sure how I'm going to work in crewing with swimming and biking, because I don't have really much experience doing ultra swimming and biking events, whereas I have at least some experience running, albeit it's not ultra running.
We've done some longer bike races, but we've been together at the same time. So
I'm just not sure how I should work it all together.
Huh. Have you done any open water swimming yet?
No, there's one, I think it's at Smith Mountain Lake. It's a triathlon. I'm going to do it as like kind of a test run. It's on May the 4th, ironically enough, if you're a Star Wars fan.
There you go, May the 4th be with you.
Right, thank you. But it'll be open water. I'm debating if I'll get a wetsuit or not. I'm planning on using an outdoor pool when I do the half Ironman in Galax. I don't know. I'll just see what happens, I guess.
Logistically, it's kind of interesting.
Right. Thankfully, with my half Ironman, it'll just be lap swimming, and I can do that. But open water swimming will be scary. Have you ever done? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's crazy, because I have friends that did a bunch of those like Ironman stuff, like really competitively, and they said like up front, like people were like grabbing your leg.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Like I used to be a lifeguard, and I'm like, that just gives me anxiety.
No kidding. Yeah. Have you ever wanted to do like any multi-sport stuff, swim, bike, run, or maybe just bike run stuff?
I'm not a big swimmer, so I've been like more recently going to the pool, but I don't even have goggles on. I kind of just like keep my head above the water and just kind of just slowly like go paddle. And I love, this is weird, you're gonna think I'm some weirdo if you don't already. I like treading water. Treading water sucks. Okay. I will go for 20 or 30 minutes, and people are just like looking at me like I'm a psychopath.
It's hard. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. But I don't know. There's one thing, and I challenge you to go look at this. It's called the Red Bull X Alps.
Okay.
It is the most extreme adventure race, as they call it, in the world. I will never be on the level to do it. It's a hike and fly paragliding competition in the Alps every other year. So they just had it this past summer. And basically what they do is they set it up. You have all these various checkpoints and stuff like that. And you have to cover the entire route either on foot and or like in the air. So you basically start at the bottom of like something in Austria. They go ready, set, go. You take off. Everybody climbs up, hikes, runs, whatever, up to the top of the first checkpoint. They take off. You try to catch thermals and fly along the route. And it's like 1,500 miles or something like that. And these guys, like, depending on the conditions, like they're flying their paragliders all through the Alps, no motors, super sketchy. They got like a full crew with them. And it's like every day they're basically doing a marathon or more, and then doing something stupid like 15,000 feet of climbing. I mean, it's just, and they're like not really sleeping and then flying. I mean, it's like the most dangerous. For a long time, I really wanted to do that, and I don't know. I'm just not a good enough paragliding pilot. So maybe.
Have you thought about doing the marathon Disables?
Actually, at one point I did. I had a friend that did that years ago before like it was like really big. Because in Europe, if you're French, it's in Morocco, right, in the desert. And you have to, for those that don't know about it, it's like I believe you have to carry all of your food with you for the entire, what is it, 200-300 miles or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's 6 days.
6 days stage race. So you're doing it from like a marathon to 50 miles every day through the freaking desert in
Wow, so
Morocco.
it's like sand dunes and stuff.
It's sand dunes. It's horrible. And anyways, one of my friends, when she did it, they put you in tents every night, and you have like a tent mate or whatever. And so they were sleeping, and she woke up, and people were screaming in the tent next to them. The the guy, I don't know why I'm laughing, because I'm like, what? This is insane. The guy died because he got a scorpion bite during the middle of the night, and it killed him.
Wow.
It's like, what? I heard that. I was like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out. I know people's been attacked on the route, assaulted, everything by people. So it's crazy. I went to Disney World this summer, and we went to Epcot, and it was in the Moroccan section, and I wasn't expecting it. I was just walking around, and I knew what it was. I watched a ton of docu-series about it, and I went and I saw it, and they have all like the shoes and stuff and the medals, and it was really cool.
That's cool. I didn't know they would have that there. That's cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. They have a whole shrine to it, and it's pretty neat. Speaking of staged races, you talked about a trail in Florida you did that was 1,100 miles. Can you talk a little bit about doing that?
Yeah. Wow. Like, I get really emotional thinking about it, talking about it. It's hands down the hardest thing that I've ever done.
Right. I imagine it would be.
So, like, where to start on that? Yeah, it's 1,108 miles. It's the southernmost national scenic trail. So I think there's like 10 of those in America, which the U.S. Congress designates these as national scenic trails. So it's the Florida Trail, or rather Florida National Scenic Trail. It is the only through hiking trail that is, that people hike in the winter. So this is not like a summer thing. Like July would be terrible. It also overgrown. I do a lot of trail work. Actually, this year I was really excited with I do a couple running races on it. We donated over $20,000 to the Florida Trail Association, which is super awesome. But yeah, it's the wildest adventure I've ever been on. It's the only thing that I've ever gone 100% all in on. Even with ultra running, even when I was running the fastest, furthest, whatever, I've never just been like, cool, I'm 100% dedicated to this. And no one had ever really done it as a fully supported FKT. It's just been solo FKTs. And I went down there and I trained for I'd been thinking about it for like 2 or 3 years. So I was kind of checking off as many sections of the trail as I could. And I posted on Facebook like, hey, anybody want to, take a month off and come and crew me? And always like, oh yeah, like we'll come pace you for like 15 miles or whatever, which is awesome. It's very nice, but that really kind of only takes away and makes it harder to do what we're doing, because then you have to,
set it up, coordinate it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, you can get the ride back. It's like, but anyways, with that being said, it's like, so we kind of just ragtagged it. Me and this guy Joey, who we've become like really good friends. And I set off to do 50 miles a day. I wanted to go under 20 days, and I'm writing a book about it right now, very slow.
Wow.
And this was 2020. So I started I guess it was February 7th, it would have been. Because I finished on leap year day, February 29th, all days.
That's neat.
Anything and everything pretty much went wrong on that. Yeah, like the first 30 miles. So basically it spans the length of Florida. You start down in the Everglades in southern Florida. You go, the first 30 miles is a swamp, big cypress swamp. You're wading with shin deep to knee deep water, depending on how, or higher, for the first 30 miles. And you're literally just following an orange blaze, like on trees, kind of like the Appalachian Trail has a white blaze. This has an orange blaze. And you literally follow that from the swamp all the way to Fort Pickens in Pensacola. So you basically go the entire length of the state. You go through every ecosystem and biome 1,000 times over. I cannot emphasize how beautiful it is. Kind of like if you say, hey man, I'm going to run 100 miles. It's like one man's trash is another man's treasure, in the sense of like, wow, like that sounds absolutely horrible. And yet you're like, yeah, dude, this is going to be great. Going through the swamp, hands down, one of the most beautiful things I've ever done in my life. Just that first 30 miles. the rest of it, you hit little patches here and there, but dude, it's beautiful. I saw a panther, Florida panther, which is a cougar, a mountain lion, all the same thing.
Okay.
I saw so many bald eagles, like so many birds of prey. Like you're kind of like, oh yeah, another bald eagle.
No big deal.
Any pythons?
No pythons, unfortunately. I would have scooped those up. But I was every single day. I was in the worst pain of my life.
Yeah, no kidding.
I woke up, the second I went to bed. First couple of days, I wasn't too bad. 4 or 5 days in, you kind of try to start fighting it, and you realize that there is literally no solace from the amount of pain you're in. Like I would lay down at the end of the day and be in so much pain, I literally couldn't go to sleep. Like I just cannot emphasize every step. It felt like I was stepping on a landmine. I absolutely destroyed my body. I slept very little that entire time. And the whole time I was doing it, I was taking phone calls for my job. So
wow.
and I didn't have like a vehicle I really was able to sleep in. I had my truck, which we tried to make it work. It didn't. I woke up one night, raccoons were trying to break into my car to get food.
Oh wow.
I got bed bugs one night, didn't sleep. I mean, it was absolutely insane. I can't emphasize enough the beauty and just how painful it was. And I wish I had better, like it was literally me and a guy. We just did this like kind of ragtag. I never knew where I was going to stay every night. All of a sudden I'd be like on my phone, I'm like hotels.com. Where's the closest hotel? Sometimes it was an hour and a half away and we would drive over there. So like we wasted a lot of time and I knew that there's actually a guy doing it right now, a kid doing it right now, which unless he's just an idiot, he will easily beat that because multiple days, nights I slept for an hour, 2 hours because bed bugs, trying to sleep in the back of my truck. It was like, so the next day I would do like only 30 miles, So, and because nobody had really set the previous record, like I was kind of just like, hey, I'm gonna go as hard as I can, but I don't have to break a certain time. So, I think in 2025, like January, February, I'm definitely going to go back and hopefully crush what I did, fully document the whole thing, have people with cameras in my face, not because check me out. I don't want that at all. I'm not a run influencer. I'm not trying to, I hate that. I despise that stuff. But I want to really show off the beauty of this and then what, physical limits,
what's possible for humans.
Have you thought about doing the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail?
So PCT, no. AT was kind of what got me on the Florida Trail because I failed miserably trying to get the speed record. I was probably in the best shape I've ever been in, just straight up. This was about 12 years ago. I had a lady. We did everything wrong. I had a lady crewing me. She was very out of shape.
That's problematic.
So if and I say this of like, hey, cool, like whatever, don't care if you're in shape or not. But like she wouldn't be able to like just run. Oh snap. Like one of the gates was locked to try to access me. So she couldn't just run 2 miles up to get to me, or get on a bike or anything like that. And so we didn't really think a lot of it through. It was just me and one lady. So I've learned a lot of things from that. I made it 5 days. I did like about 200 miles. She missed me multiple times. I basically go like 17 miles without food. I was bumming food off people through hiking. I felt like such a jerk. So I was like, I will never do that. And I had that echoing in the back of my head the entire time I did the Florida Trail. So, I didn't do it perfectly when I did the Florida Trail, but I've learned a lot of lessons. So I'm kind of been thinking about doing the Arizona Trail. It's an 800-mile trail. I just went out 2 weeks ago and started scouting that out. It seems like a really rad,
cool place to be.
Yeah. It's rugged and very, very, very remote and unforgiving. So I'm kind of in between doing the Florida Trail again and the Arizona Trail. So I guess it really depends on how this kid does. If he breaks it, I'm going back, not just to beat that, to shatter it and really to make a statement. So
No, awesome. Well, as we're wrapping up, we have a series of questions that we ask every interviewee, and Luke usually leads. So.
What advice do you have for young people just making their way in the world?
Dude, okay. Like I said before, like I used to coach high school cross country. I
Mhm.
love talking to younger people. Like, what do I know? I don't know anything. I started my own business. I dropped out of college. I would say college isn't for everybody, definitely not for entrepreneurs. Like I said before, is you can always make more money, but you can't get more time. Life is about moderation too, but every now and then you have to do things that just throw moderation to the wind.
Yeah.
Book running, taking a trip, like going out to party one night, hey, if things get in the way from you accomplishing your goals, they're not for you. I will tell you this, the more success you get, and I'm not talking about monetary success, but the more success you get and the better that you do, the more alone you're going to find yourself, and it's going to be scary. And you just have to trust the process like 100%. And you know, I'll tell you one thing is I used to go to like this LA fitness gym,
Mhm.
right? And you go there, and I'm not like some jacked guy, but you go there, there's all these yoked guys and very attractive women that are all in really good shape, guys and girls. And whenever I would get on the Stairmaster or the treadmill, I would be encouraged. I would feel motivated to go faster, go harder,
Right.
further. I started going to the YMCA. Did not feel that motivation. It was like more older people casually working out. Iron sharpens iron.
Mhm.
Put yourself and surround yourself with people who are going to motivate you, people who are going to push you. Make sure you're okay in life being the bottom of the totem pole, because if you start something new. I've started so many different new hobbies in sports: skydiving, paragliding,
Right.
ultra running, trail running, Muay Thai, and I've
Mhm.
gone all over the world doing all this stuff. But as soon as you start, you're always going to be at the bottom. That's okay, because you're learning and you will forever be learning. So be okay with being humbled and being in that uncomfortable, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Ask questions, try
Yes.
hard, try harder, practice more. There you go. That's my thing.
Thank
All
you.
right. And our next question, we ask everybody that we interview this question.
It's a bit of a doozy,
But
we find that it's really indicative of a person's true character, and that is, what is the meaning of life to you?
personally,
Meaning of life to me is just, wow, that's a weird question, because I ask that to myself all the time. I think
Right.
it's a dynamic question. It's definitely not it's not static.
No, it's not.
I think as you age, it's like at your age, I could have told you like the point of life was to have a good time,
Right.
and to travel the world. Now, at 37, I would say the point of my life is to try to help other people uh, push themselves, see different parts of the South, like through my events, which is I've made my business, not to sound corny or whatever. But I've kind of done everything that I've wanted to do, which
Right.
is insane. So like, for me, the point of my life right now is just to do things that make me happy,
Mhm.
while also doing things that make other people happy. How about that?
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, it's been an honor to have you on today, sir. We've both really enjoyed it.
Thank you for coming on. This was Run Bum, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.